Does your money ever go into his hands?
It better not go through his hands.
Yeah.
Anything exciting? It's not even cordial.
They called it a marriage built on faith. But what if it was really a cult built on ego? There comes a moment in every long-running reality show when it crosses an invisible line, from voyeuristic drama into outright absurdity. Sister Wives has officially staggered past that line, gasping, sweaty, and delusional, dragging its cast along like unwilling extras in its own eulogy. What began as a peek into a plural marriage experiment has mutated into a televised sermon on control, regression, and televised hypocrisy. The latest spectacle? A 20-something woman being paraded before her parents like a porcelain figurine, seeking permission to breathe. Yes, adult women, apparently, must now ask their fathers if they are allowed to have boyfriends. At 24. If this sounds medieval, it's because it is, though the family would no doubt prefer the term traditional. One imagines Cody Brown, patriarch of the crumbling polygamist dynasty, polishing his imaginary scepter and preparing for a solemn ceremony of paternal blessing, while his daughter Aurora awkwardly performs her lines about courtship checkpoints. It's also contrived, it practically squeaks. The entire scene was an exercise in humiliation disguised as morality. An adult woman performing submission for the cameras while her parents beam at the purity of it all. Aurora, who has already been dating her boyfriend, announces to the royal couple that it's official, as though the world were waiting for Cody's signature on her relationship certificate. The problem isn't the awkwardness, it's the ideology behind it. This isn't love. It's control in a church dress. Cody's involvement is particularly nauseating. Watching him posture as guardian of virtue while reminiscing about his own premarital escapades with Robyn is the kind of hypocrisy that could fuel a small nation's cynicism reserves. His claim that a man dating his daughter is kissing another man's wife belongs in a handbook for how to turn human affection into property law. The sheer audacity of it would be comic if it weren't so revolting. Of course, none of it felt remotely authentic. The camera angles, the nervous laughter, the stilted phrasing, it all screamed producer notes. Viewers weren't watching a family interaction. They were watching content creation. TLC seems to believe its audience lacks object permanence, that we've all forgotten how spontaneous human interaction looks. The production team may as well have waved cue cards reading, "Insert awkward giggle here." The tragedy, however, runs deeper than bad acting. Robyn and Cody's obsession with performative propriety has transformed their children into props in a morality play that even the audience no longer believes. Once upon a time, these kids were vibrant and curious, alive with personality. Now they appear terrified. Robots programmed to smile when prompted. What began as an experiment in plural love has calcified into a cult of image management. Dayton, Robyn's eldest, escaped the suffocating atmosphere, and one suspects his emotional liberation is directly proportional to his physical distance from that household. The remaining children, trapped in Robyn's sanctified fortress of dysfunction, display all the vibrancy of hostages reading from a teleprompter. And still, Robyn calls this our culture. Indeed, a culture of dependency, fear, and parental overreach, filmed under flattering lighting and edited to look faith-based. To justify this theater of infantilization, the Browns dip into a bottomless well of religious language. Purity, protection, and respect become holy synonyms for control. In Robyn's house, a daughter's autonomy is treated like contraband. Even more grotesque is how seamlessly Cody has fused his evangelical platitudes with the pseudo-masculine jargon of the online red pill underworld. Gone are the days when he cited spiritual unity and divine purpose. Now he borrows from podcasts designed to convince insecure men that women are property with mascara. It's almost impressive. The efficiency with which he's managed to blend 1990s Christian purity culture with 2020's internet misogyny. His daughters are expected to live as temple virgins under the guise of self-respect, while he pontificates about protecting them. This from the man who once gleefully made out with Robyn in front of the other wives. Protection, in his lexicon, means ownership. His brand of morality is little more than paternal lust for control dressed in a patriarch's robe. Every time Cody waxes poetic about chastity, he exposes his own narcissism. To him, a woman's worth is not inherent but transferable, passed from father to husband like a family heirloom. Watching Aurora nod and thank her father for guidance is not endearing. It's chilling. It's the spiritual equivalent of watching someone hand over their autonomy wrapped in gift paper. And if the religious aspect were genuine, perhaps there would be a twisted consistency to it. But Cody and Robyn haven't seen the inside of a church in years. Their faith now functions as set dressing, invoked whenever the storyline requires gravitas. Robyn speaks of our church the way one might refer to a long-closed gym membership, nostalgically, without any actual participation. The Browns' Christianity is less theology and more theater, a script revised to excuse whichever power dynamic benefits them that week. What's truly unnerving is how willingly the production team packages this regression as wholesome family television. A grown woman performing childhood obedience, a father sermonizing about chastity he never practiced, a mother wringing her hands about culture while infantilizing her adult offspring, and a network filming it all as though this were an aspirational lifestyle rather than a cautionary tale. But perhaps TLC knows exactly what it's doing. The show is no longer about family, it's about pathology. Viewers tune in not to admire the Browns, but to gawk at their slow-motion implosion. Aurora's awkward announcement is simply the latest episode in a never-ending carnival of arrested development. Watching her seek validation for a relationship she's already in is like watching a 24-year-old ask for permission to tie her shoes. This infantilization isn't accidental. It's a feature. Robyn's maternal style thrives on dependency. She has spent years grooming her daughters to consult her before every decision, big or small. By encouraging them to check in before making choices, she ensures that autonomy feels dangerous, even disrespectful. The result? Adult women who act like preteens in a purity seminar. Aurora's entire storyline exists to serve two purposes: to reassure Robyn that her parenting is noble, and to give Cody a platform to posture as the world's most overzealous bodyguard. Together, they transform their daughter's love life into a proxy war for their own crumbling identities. Cody's scenes with Aurora drip with desperation. He needs to be relevant, to reassert dominance in a family that has long since voted him off the island. Meanwhile, Robyn projects her own history onto her daughter with evangelical zeal. She frets that Aurora might repeat her mistakes, which, in her telling, amount to the sin of living like a normal young adult. It's a fascinating glimpse into self-delusion. A woman terrified that her daughter might grow up, because her own maturity ended the moment she met Cody Brown. The irony is exquisite. Robyn, self-proclaimed model of faith and family, presides over the most emotionally stunted household in the entire series. The children of the so-called fallen wives, Janelle and Christine, have grown into articulate, independent adults. Robyn's children, shielded from the corrupting influence of independence, appear frozen in adolescence. It's as though emotional maturity were treated as an act of rebellion. The family's obsession with appearances has become its undoing. Every sermon about purity, every paternal monologue about guarding virtue, only highlights the moral rot underneath. Viewers aren't witnessing faith. They're witnessing fear dressed as holiness. The performance is so overproduced it verges on parody. Cody, clutching his imaginary patriarchal authority, fumbles through awkward lectures about dating, while Robyn nods with tearful intensity like a woman auditioning for sainthood. Their daughter, visibly mortified, tries to play her part in the morality pageant, unaware that the only believable emotion in the room is secondhand embarrassment. Even the dialogue betrays the artifice. Aurora speaks of her boyfriend meeting checkpoints, parroting Robyn's earlier comments about how Cody checked off all the boxes. The language is transactional, mechanical, love as a bureaucratic process. It's romance by flowchart, complete with parental sign-off. And the public reaction? A collective cringe. The audience has evolved beyond the show's moral theatrics, but the Browns haven't noticed. They still believe viewers are passive disciples rather than critical observers. The irony is delicious. A family obsessed with being seen, utterly blind to how ridiculous they look. Occasionally, the varnish cracks. Robyn's forced smiles falter, Aurora's eyes dart toward the camera in silent pleading, and Cody's self-righteous tone curdles into hostility. In those fleeting moments, the truth bleeds through. This isn't a family. It's a PR campaign for a failed ideology. The Browns have spent years trying to convince the world that their lifestyle represents love multiplied. What it actually represents is individuality divided. Their relationships are governed not by affection, but by hierarchy. The wives were pitted against each other, now the daughters inherit the same emotional script. The audience sees it, even if they don't. What was once marketed as a family experiment in faith has become a case study in arrested emotional development. When a father preaches chastity to an adult daughter as though she were a wayward toddler, the problem isn't the child. It's the parent who refuses to stop parenting. If the Aurora purity ritual revealed the family's emotional infantilization, Mary Brown's storyline exposes its opposite pathology, the desperate overcorrection of a woman mistaking visibility for liberation. The contrast is almost poetic. One daughter's freedom caged, one wife's independence hollowed out by loneliness. Together, they form a perfect mirror of what Sister Wives has become. A show about women who escaped patriarchy, only to rebrand their servitude as empowerment. Once the obedient first wife, Mary now delivers Instagram sermons about worthiness and empowerment, armed with a thesaurus of therapy buzzwords and a camera-ready grin. Her storyline has evolved from tragic to tedious to unintentionally comedic. Each season, she insists that she's found her voice, but somehow her newfound autonomy always requires a production team, a sidekick, and a glass of wine she doesn't drink. Enter Jenn, Mary's companion, handler, comic relief, and possibly the only thing keeping her on the payroll. Their dynamic is a masterclass in emotional outsourcing. Jenn functions as a one-woman life coach, executive assistant, and Greek chorus rolled into one. When Mary stumbles, Jenn narrates. When Mary equivocates, Jenn scolds. When Mary pretends to be living her best life, Jenn provides the laugh track. One might be tempted to see their friendship as refreshing, a portrait of female camaraderie in midlife. But the longer one watches, the clearer it becomes. This is not empowerment. It's supervised independence. Mary has simply replaced one controlling relationship with another. Only this time, the manipulation comes with punchlines and hashtags. Jenn pushes Mary to live. Translation: Jenn tells Mary what to do while pretending she's encouraging her to think for herself. The power imbalance is as palpable as it is ironic. For a woman who claims to be her own boss, Mary can't seem to make a single decision without running it past her bestie. Even her dating life is staged as a two-person improv act, Jenn egging her on like a coach sending an anxious player onto the field. Their scenes together play like community theater produced by a motivational seminar. We are treated to forced laughter, juvenile jokes, and quirky banter that feels more middle school sleepover than midlife renaissance. Viewers aren't watching friendship. They're watching codependency in high definition. There's something tragically juvenile about it. Mary, at over 50, giggles her way through speed dating exercises as though she's rediscovering human contact for the first time since Cody's emotional embargo. Jenn, meanwhile, orchestrates the chaos, equal parts drill sergeant and babysitter. Together, they present an image of sisterhood so sanitized it borders on parody. A live, laugh, love sign come to life. And yet, despite or because of the cringe, their dynamic keeps Mary relevant. Without Jenn, Mary's storyline would consist of home renovation updates and self-help slogans. With her, it becomes a buddy comedy nobody asked for, but everyone watches out of morbid fascination. Jenn's function in the TLC ecosystem is simple. Keep Mary marketable without letting her drown in her own indecision. It's difficult to tell where the friendship ends and the branding begins. Jenn appears in promotional materials, co-manages social media, and provides the kind of sound bites producers salivate over. She is both co-star and safety net, propping up a storyline that should have ended seasons ago. There's a cynical brilliance to it. TLC, aware that Mary lacks the family connections that make Christine and Janelle relatable, has pivoted her narrative toward female friendship. It's cheaper than a new marriage and more marketable than loneliness. In other words, Jenn isn't just a friend. She's a narrative life raft.
But let's not romanticize it.
For all the talk of mutual support, Jenn often functions as Mary's emotional ventriloquist. She says the things Mary can't or won't, often with biting sarcasm designed to compensate for Mary's passivity. Viewers cheer Jenn for her bluntness, but her very presence underscores Mary's enduring fragility. A woman who has truly found her voice doesn't need a spokesperson. Nowhere is Mary's confusion more apparent than in her endless rehashing of the Coyote Pass saga. She fumes about property rights and family communication, but her real grievance is existential. She still can't decide whether she's a victim or a partner in her own erasure. Her anger at Christine for signing over land to Cody and Robyn is less about real estate and more about hierarchy. Once the favored wife, Mary has been demoted to the family's administrative footnote, and she can't stand it. She frames her grievances as procedural. There should have been a family discussion. But the subtext is pure jealousy wrapped in diplomacy. When Christine walked away with her dignity and a deed-free conscience, Mary stayed behind, clutching the paperwork. Her attempt to moralize the situation, claiming Christine's actions were uncommunicated, is simply a polite way of expressing envy. Jenn's role in this melodrama is to puncture Mary's delusion with acerbic one-liners. "How much longer until you realize he's an ass and you can't be nice?" she quips, the voice of reason disguised as comic relief. It's a good line, but it also exposes Mary's paralysis. She can recognize Cody's cruelty in theory, but she can't let go of the fantasy that niceness might someday win her a reward. Mary's brand of empowerment resembles an MLM seminar disguised as therapy. Her vocabulary, worthy, authentic, voice, boundaries, reads like it was generated by an algorithm trained on inspirational mugs. Yet beneath the slogans lies the same emotional structure that kept her in Cody's orbit for decades: external validation. She has swapped profits, not paradigms. What's most tragic is that she doesn't realize it. Mary's transformation from first wife to self-help guru is less a rebirth than a rebrand. She preaches independence while depending on a friend, a camera crew, and a curated audience to affirm her progress. She's the embodiment of what happens when empowerment becomes performance, when healing must be content. And the irony, of course, is that her journey is being filmed by the same network that commodified her pain in the first place. The TLC machine that once reduced her to the jealous wife archetype now sells her as an emblem of resilience. Nothing has changed except the marketing copy. While Mary and Jenn are busy rehearsing friendship for the cameras, Cody Brown has embarked on his own transformation, from patriarch to parody. His recent appearances make one question whether we're watching a reality show or an experimental performance piece titled Man Unhinged. Gone is the charismatic ringmaster of early seasons. What remains is a jittery caricature, manic grins, self-pitying tirades, and facial expressions so contorted they could double as exorcism material. He oscillates between delusions of grandeur and fits of self-pity, convinced that everyone, wives, children, interviewer, audience, is conspiring against his greatness. In one recent interview, Cody waxed poetic about pheromones and natural masculine energy, confusing body odor for biology. Robyn, visibly nauseated, asked, "What's that smell? Is that you?" before fleeing the room, a small act of rebellion or perhaps just self-preservation. The moment was so grotesquely comic it bordered on Shakespearean. The self-proclaimed alpha reduced to defending his own stench.
This is not just a man unraveling, it's a brand collapsing under its own delusion. Cody still believes he's the protagonist of this story, but the narrative has long since shifted. He is now the villain everyone tolerates for plot continuity. Cody's descent into erratic posturing is no mystery. Stripped of his wives, estranged from most of his children, and shackled to the only partner who still feeds his ego, he's clinging to the last illusion available to him: dominance. His newfound alpha male persona, borrowed wholesale from internet pseudo-philosophers, offers a convenient fantasy in which his failures become proof of persecution. He mistakes hostility for authority, arrogance for conviction, and performative anger for strength. His interviews with host Sukanya Krishnan expose the pattern perfectly. The moment a woman challenges him, he becomes flustered, defensive, and bizarrely theatrical, contorting his face like an amateur villain auditioning for The Shining. Viewers have compared his mannerisms to Charlie Manson, Jack Nicholson, and Jim Carrey, all unsettling in their own right, and all more self-aware than Cody. Whether it's steroids, ego withdrawal, or simple moral decay, the effect is the same. A man once obsessed with control, now controlled entirely by his need to appear in control. Perhaps the cruelest irony is that Cody's world collapsed not from external betrayal, but from his own theology of self-importance. He demanded obedience, and when his wives complied too well, he grew bored. He punished independence, and when they finally broke free, he blamed them for the loneliness he authored. What we're witnessing now is the inevitable result of decades of self-worship disguised as leadership. The patriarch has become a relic, an aging narcissist raging against the extinction of his own mythology. His delusions of masculinity grow louder precisely because no one is listening anymore. Even Robyn, his once devoted accomplice, seems weary. Her expressions of pity masquerade as loyalty, but her eyes tell the truth. She knows the script is dying, and she's calculating her exit strategy. For now, she plays along, nodding through his rants, clutching her faux Christian pearls. But the affection is mechanical, transactional. What makes all this perversely fascinating is that it's still being marketed as entertainment. The show has devolved into a televised autopsy, and yet viewers continue to watch, not out of admiration, but out of anthropological curiosity. We tune in to see how low the once golden patriarch can sink, how far the network will stretch plausibility to keep the corpse twitching, and stretch it they do. The producers, desperate for relevance, frame Cody's breakdown as character development. His outbursts are edited into climactic confessionals, his mania presented as passion. In reality, it's pathology, a slow, televised unmasking of a man who can't distinguish authority from performance. But TLC has always known its audience well. Disgust and fascination are loyal bedfellows. The Browns' implosion has become the franchise's only remaining currency. Every empire eventually collapses under the weight of its own mythology. For Sister Wives, that mythology was spiritual plural marriage, a supposedly enlightened arrangement in which multiple women shared one man in the name of divine unity. In reality, it was little more than a decades-long exercise in ego maintenance. Now, as the empire burns, Cody clings to his crown, Robyn prays for lighting that hides her disillusionment, and the rest of the family has fled the kingdom. The only thing left standing is the camera. Cody's late-stage unraveling would be tragic if it weren't so grotesquely theatrical. His interviews have become a form of self-parody, part televangelist, part motivational speaker, part hostage of his own delusions. Every twitch, every smirk, every pseudo-philosophical tirade about being a man betrays the same panic, the fear that the show might go on without him. His manic expressions, somewhere between Jack Nicholson's "Here's Johnny" and a malfunctioning ventriloquist dummy, aren't the eccentricities of a confident man. They are the spasms of a dethroned monarch realizing the peasants have stopped listening. Once the self-appointed moral compass of his family,
He now oscillates between biblical imagery and gym rat machismo, spouting about pheromones, revenge, and alpha energy like a man possessed by every bad podcast on the internet. This isn't patriarchal authority. It's midlife crisis on steroids, literally and figuratively. His outbursts no longer command fear, only pity. The wives who once trembled now roll their eyes. The audience laughs, then cringes, then wonders why it's still watching.
The answer, of course, is that Cody has become the perfect villain for a culture addicted to irony. His downfall is our content, his humiliation, our entertainment. The tragedy of the Brown family has been repackaged as comfort television for the disillusioned, proof that narcissism always devours itself in the end. If Cody is the fallen prophet, Robyn remains his last disciple, half priestess, half apologist, clutching her delusions like relics from a lost religion. Her perpetual tears, once a symbol of empathy, now feel performative. Like a reflex she's forgotten how to turn off. She speaks of our culture with the same fervor one might use to describe an ancient ritual long outlawed for cruelty. Her tragedy is that she believes her own script. Robyn seems genuinely convinced that her family's dysfunction is noble suffering, that obedience is sanctity, that her daughter's infantilization is protection. She mistakes control for care and pity for piety. Every time she appears on screen, it feels as if the ghost of purity culture itself is being resurrected for one more sermon. Robyn is the embodiment of emotional regression, an adult woman so committed to appearing virtuous that she's forgotten how to be real. She insists on calling dysfunction faith, but the camera, ever impartial, records the truth, fear disguised as holiness. Meanwhile, the audience has outgrown the show. Early seasons traded in curiosity and voyeurism. How does this work? How do they share love, parenting, resources? But the curtain has long been pulled back, revealing not faith, but farce. The mystery has been solved, and the answer is uglier than anyone expected. Viewers now watch with anthropological detachment, not fascination. They no longer seek understanding, they perform autopsy. The conversations online are not about who's right or wrong, but about who's delusional, who's acting, who's trapped. In a strange reversal, the audience has become more emotionally intelligent than the cast. What makes this even darker is that the producers know it. The editing has shifted accordingly. Gone are the soft focus montages of family dinners and unity circles. What remains are close-ups of discomfort. Aurora's nervous laughter, Cody's manic eyes, Mary's brittle smiles. TLC has stopped pretending this is a story of love and started marketing it as the slow-motion implosion of an American cult. The irony is that the show could have ended gracefully. Christine found real happiness outside the marriage. Janelle discovered peace in solitude. Even Mary, in her awkward way, began rebuilding an identity. That could have been the final note. The wives emancipated, the patriarch exposed, the audience applauding their escape. But TLC doesn't retire its stars. It taxidermies them. So the show staggers on, hollow but animated, forcing its cast to reenact traumas already resolved in real life. We know what happens months before each episode airs. Social media has spoiled the plot, but the network insists on filming corpses pretending to breathe. Every episode feels like a seance. The family's soul has departed, but producers keep summoning its ghost for ratings. Coyote Pass remains an unresolved metaphor for everything that went wrong. Land divided unevenly, promises broken, loyalty exploited. It's less property dispute than spiritual allegory. The American dream subdivided into resentment. In her talking head segments, Mary still delivers her well-rehearsed monologues about communication and fairness. She demands that Cody just talk while ignoring the decades she spent enforcing his silence on others. Her selective awakening would be admirable if it weren't so belated. She now recognizes the narcissism that governed her marriage, but refuses to admit she once helped maintain it. And yet, it's hard to hate her. Watching Mary struggle through this moral maze feels less infuriating than inevitable. She is the product of a lifetime spent mistaking compliance for love. When she lashes out at Christine or fixates on land distribution, what she's really fighting is irrelevance. She doesn't want the acres, she wants acknowledgement that she existed. Her friendship with Jenn, awkward as it is, at least provides a counterweight, a mirror that occasionally forces her to confront her absurdity. Jenn, for all her brashness, may be the only person in Mary's orbit who dares to puncture her delusions. But even Jenn's presence feels transactional, as though the show needs one functional adult to stabilize the energy of a woman who's been living on emotional credit for a decade. If the Browns are trapped in a cycle of denial, the viewers have assumed the role of collective therapist. Every comment thread reads like a group counseling session: dissection, frustration, reluctant compassion. The audience has stopped watching for plot resolution. It's watching to witness recognition. The tragedy, of course, is that it never comes. Cody will never apologize. Robyn will never deconstruct her own complicity. Mary will never stop mistaking attention for healing. The show's great moral lesson, that self-awareness is freedom, will remain eternally unlearned by the very people performing it. It's fitting, then, that the most common phrase uttered by longtime fans is, "I'm done." They say it with exasperation, as though breaking up with a bad partner. Yet they continue to tune in, half hoping someone, anyone, will evolve. It's not hope that keeps them watching. It's unfinished emotional business. The viewers want closure that the Browns are constitutionally incapable of giving. In the end, Sister Wives has become a sociological artifact, a record of how dysfunction masquerades as faith, how patriarchy reinvents itself through pity, and how the machinery of reality television feeds on the very people it exploits. The Brown story is not about religion, love, or even marriage. It's about control, how it is enforced, how it is internalized, and how it destroys everyone involved. Each character represents a stage of that decay. Cody, the narcissist who confuses dominance for divinity. Robyn, the devotee who mistakes submission for virtue. Mary, the exile who rebrands compliance as self-help. And the daughters, the inheritors of emotional debt they never agreed to incur. The show began as an argument for unconventional love. It ends as a case study in generational trauma. The only miracles left are the children who escaped. There is, however, one unintentional gift this saga offers: clarity. In a culture addicted to image, Sister Wives has accidentally become the most honest mirror on television. It exposes in excruciating detail how self-deception functions when broadcast for profit. Every sermon, every confession, every authentic moment is meticulously curated, and yet, authenticity leaks through anyway. In the cracks, in the tremor of a voice, in the flicker of resentment across a smile. The Browns wanted to prove that plural marriage could work. What they proved instead is that any relationship built on hierarchy will eventually collapse under its own hypocrisy. And the cameras, unforgiving, unblinking, captured every frame of the implosion. So what remains? A patriarch lost in his own echo chamber. A wife performing sainthood in a house full of silence. Another reinventing herself as a motivational brand. A network milking the corpse of a concept long past expiration. The end of Sister Wives will not arrive with an announcement or a finale. It will arrive quietly, when the audience finally stops watching. Until then, the Browns will continue their pantomime of purpose, mistaking the whir of production lights for divine attention. But make no mistake, the story is over. What we're witnessing now is not life, not love, not faith.
Its aftermath. The patriarch has fallen. The wives have fled. And the only thing left preaching is the camera. Subscribe. We're just scratching the glossy surface of delusion.